welcome to the Mindset Michelle TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us today. I'm so privileged to have this guest with us today. He is an incredible man, and I can't wait to get started. I'm so excited, I just can't wait. But please, for now, let's welcome Daniel Hill. Hello, Daniel.
G'day, Michelle.
I love that. G'day. I bet you've been practicing the Australian welcome for a while now, Daniel.
No, we're in England or Britain, we're used to watching Neighbours. It's come to an end now. So I was brought up on Neighbours, so quite used to saying that. So it's okay. Yeah, g'day.
Well, g'day, Daniel, and welcome to the TV show. For those of you that aren't aware of Daniel, he's an incredible Enneagram coach. He's a specialist in that area, and I'm so super fascinated for him to be on the show today. But before we get too much into what he can share with us about how that can help us improve our mindsets, Daniel, please explain to people, what is it that an Enneagram coach does, and how did you come to become one?
All right, so let's get the right pronunciation as best we can. So think of just like any, A-N-Y. It's actually E-N-N-E-A, but how we pronounce it is any, as in any old iron. Enneagram. So Enneagram. So but it's Enneia comes from I believe it's the Greek word of 9, and gram being a graph. So it's a graph of 9 types, and it is so much more than that. So I got into it through my training, which was initially in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming and coaching, which I did my training on Harley Street in London, paid a lot of money. And the Enneagram was just sort of bolted onto the course. So I did I think I probably did an afternoon in it, but it kind of latched onto me. And it was something that I became fascinated in. And originally, when I first started work as a coach, mentor, therapist 16 years ago, I would sometimes work out someone's personality in sessions when I was helping them. But I never felt I had the confidence to actually bring it into a paid session, because I thought, well, I'm really self-taught. This is something that's I've learned in an afternoon. But I would then say at the end of a paid session, I would say, have you got 20 minutes? Have you got an extra 20 minutes? And they would say, yeah. And I said, well, look, and I brought the Enneagram books out. There was a number that I had, but the two favorites are, there's a book right here called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Subtitle is The Complete Guide to Psychological and Spiritual Growth for the 9 Personality Types. The other one is not to hand, but it's called The Enneagram Made Easy. It's got cartoons in it, and it's yellow. You'll find it quite easily. I actually became friends for a while with one of the co-authors before she passed away 4 years ago. So it was something that just really interested me, because when I started using it myself primarily, it was like finding my diary. It was so, not that I've got a diary, but it was so accurate about my personality that it was freaky. Like, this is unbelievably accurate. This is exactly how I think. This is exactly how I struggle, and this is how I actually do well. So it was basically highlighting my strengths and weaknesses. And I was able to see, when I was coaching clients, where they were struggling in life were to do with their limiting beliefs. This is why I know Michelle coaches as well, but a lot of the time clients are stuck in what they know. We're always stuck in what we know, and that are limited beliefs about ourselves and limited beliefs about the world. When you overcome those limiting beliefs, the world is your oyster. You can spread much more and do much more in life. So I noticed that a number of the issues that clients were having were actually associated with the unhealthy aspects of their Enneagram type. So to begin with, it was outside of sessions, and clients, I felt more comfortable doing that. Then clients were like, wow, this is actually really accurate. And I was, well, yeah, the issues that you're coming up with, look, it says in the book here, this is da da da. Over time, then I began to confidently start using it in sessions with clients. And then I remember the first time I did a whole session using the Enneagram, and it just felt natural. And then I started to use it effectively, and that I was actually getting results. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I do NLP. I do something called EFT, which is tapping. I do eye movement integration therapy, which is very similar to EMDR. I do a technique called havening. These are all tools that work on the emotions and help us to feel emotionally better and can clear limitation. But the Enneagram was working on psychology, and where we look at things where we would say, you know, the adage, you're only as strong as the weakest
link.
Correct. So the personality, all of our personalities have strengths and weaknesses. So when we can find out what our weak link is, we can actually strengthen that. That would make sense logically. So to find someone's Enneagram type and then help them to show how you can become more healthy with it and stronger with it would make complete and utter sense. So a lot of this really, I feel like, do you know what? I've often felt like Lionel Logue, who was Australian. Do you know Lionel Logue?
No, I haven't heard of him.
Have you heard of the film The King's Speech? It came out in 2010.
Oh, yes, it's The King's Speech.
And he helped the king who had a stutter to get over his speech impediment. And he was called quite a maverick because he worked in quite a different way, and he worked in a way that was authentic to him, and he got results. You know, he was unconventional, and I think I'm quite an unconventional coach in many ways.
I love that, and thank you for sharing so much of your different and varied areas of skill set, from the NLP to the EFT, all of these different abbreviations. But the Enneagram instead of Enneagram,
well done.
Might also be the way Australians say it, but Enneagram sounds like any old thing to me. It's an expression.
Right, good.
Enneagram. So I'm interested then, you've obviously studied quite extensively, been very methodical in the way that you've then introduced it into the work that you do, and understood that it's sharing or highlighting your strengths and weaknesses and limiting beliefs that you have about yourself and about the world. What would you say then, and where did it leave you with understanding what success means to you?
Good question. Success. It's a really, really good question, because I sometimes have clients who are what you would class as successful. So they've made a lot of money, their business is successful, they have maybe a wife, maybe a husband, maybe children. So outwardly, they would look to be someone who was successful, but they're not really happy. And I've looked in success deep in the eye and sort of said, who are you? What are you about? My father was so-called successful. We lived in a 5-bedroom detached house that backed onto fields. He had a factory with 20, 30 employees, but he was dead at 57. And he wasn't very happy during his lifetime. And terminal cancer was something that helped him to find happiness within 9 months of his life. And that has really been massively influential in my life when I've looked at what success is. So when we look at success personally, I look at happiness. And to simplify happiness, I would look at 4 things. Pleasure, that's quite a common one. We can all have that. It's quite easily accessible. But where people get stuck is they just get addicted to one bit of happiness, and that's pleasure. The other one is satisfaction, which we only get through doing things that are challenging. The third one, I would say, is meaning. That's it's not just looking for meaning in life, it's actually creating meaning, doing something that actually enhances the well-being of yourself as well as other people on the planet. And the fourth one is contentment. And that's when you're not wanting anymore. And if I use the Enneagram with that, each Enneagram type I've worked out is doing something really simple, which is they practice something called want, get, be. They're all wanting. So there's 9 personality types that are all wanting. It's like like birds in a nest, like, wow, I want more food. So it's like want, 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 want. When you're wanting all the time, you can't be content. So the Enneagram helps you to find contentment, because it helps you to go inward rather than the ego. Everything good is outside, looking externally constantly for something externally to make you happy, like the bird in the nest. So ego, when we find that contentment within inside of ourselves, we find more of an inner peace. And that's the internal journey that we must all go on, really, if we're going to find happiness. And that
and I
would
love
be
that. Love how you talk in frameworks. Even the Enneagram is a framework, and it's wonderful again how even your response to what is success equals happiness, and happiness equals these 4 steps around the framework: the pleasure, the satisfaction, the meaning, and contentment. So those 4 elements that you so beautifully described are again a framework that you have then used to define what is success to you and what is happiness. And then underlying all of that, you again so fabulously shared that it's about that inner journey, and bringing that inner journey then to the next part, which is around what sort of suggestions or hints do you have to people how they can create more of that success and that happiness, the pleasure, satisfaction, meaning, and contentment in their lives? What sort of suggestions would you have for people?
Well, to look at, if in terms of happiness, to look at those things, to look whether you're doing something where you feel a sense of contentment in what it is that you do. Some people are stuck in roles, jobs, positions where there isn't contentment. There doesn't seem a way out. They're not working towards something that's going to lead to that, or that there's not even that on any level in their life at all, along with any meaning. It's, I've had clients who ended up working in positions and jobs and industries that they're just totally and utterly not happy with, and I've helped them. Some have become life coaches after working with me. That's the truth. So they've just ended up doing something where they feel satisfied. There's something that creates that. And the other thing is meaning. You can look at those quite simply, and the reason that you're not going to be experiencing those things is limitation. There's no reason why you can't be experiencing them. And the limitation is always going to be unconscious, and the unconscious is the thing that is the most powerful thing that you can possibly handle. It rules you by maybe up to 99%, maybe even more. We know it's a huge amount. We don't exactly know how much, but it's an enormous. We operate unconsciously, and so it's unconscious.
Sorry, I was just going to say. So that's a really good point around how people may not feel content or think that they have meaning in what they're doing, or not even know, that many times when I start out with coaches, clients, they kind of go, I don't know what gives me meaning, or I don't have a meaning or a purpose. So a lot of when we're working with people is around that journey and that unfoldment into their own knowing and awareness. But what do you say to people, especially from an Enneagram perspective, in terms of how they can find that meaning and purpose?
Well, we have to find out their Enneagram type during sessions, and the sessions are 90 minutes long. I have various packages, but within 90 minutes, you're going to ask a number of questions, and you're going to get deeper into finding out where people's struggles are. And Michelle and I have talked before this, and do you think we could actually do that now? Do you think that might be helpful, where we can, um through understanding your Enneatype, it's so liberating that I think that the practical thing of going into it, and let's just see if we can get something, because then your feedback from that might be like, oh wow, actually this is more than I actually could even conceptually sort of be able to talk about. You'd have a direct experience, because if we can find your type, you might then go, he knows about my life.
No, it's too scary. Oh, of course, Daniel. I'm always happy to jump off the metaphorical cliff on the show. I remember Adam Axford, the lovely Adam Axford, using me as the guinea pig for his magic trick. So let's be the guinea pig for the Enneagram.
Well, I think that from a process of elimination, I know what types that you're not. They're quite obvious after a while. So I'm going to go in just from my intuition. This is how I work with sessions. Sometimes I'm just thinking, oh, I feel that this client is this way. I'm a Cancerian, we feel a lot, but I'm also using my logical part of my brain as well in thinking. So I'm using feeling and thinking. So I'm going to go just by a process of elimination with you, and you have you have a very likable personality. It's like, I feel like if I was stuck on a train with you for hours at a time, I'd be like, hey, I'm stuck with Michele, this is fine, we're gonna, you know, she's very you're easy to get on with, you're kind, you're sensitive. So I'm being led to possibly, that means maybe Enneagram type 9. That means possibly Enneagram type 2 territory. Those are quite obvious ones that I thought there's a possibility that you may be. There may be other types. You could possibly a 4. I don't think so, but there's a possible there. What I could say is that Enneatype 1, perfectionist, I don't get that up, which would be, they tend to be quite more serious, and that there's a kind of playful side to you, not that ones can't be, but I'll eliminate that. Enneatype 3, they are super driven. I don't get the 3 vibe. They tend to be fairly quick to the point, and they're kind of, again, a little serious, so I don't tend that. 5s, there's a possibility you might be a 5. They're quite knowledgeable. You certainly have a lot of knowledge. 6, like me, there's a possibility, but I don't think so. 7, I'd say no. They tend to be, well, I'll give an example of the 7. The late Robin Williams, who else? Russell Brand. They're very fast talking. And I can usually spot 7s. 8s, I don't think so. Again, they tend to be captains of industry, and they are the boss, and it's your way or the highway. You can learn to become more healthy within that. And then I said 9. So let's go with 9. Okay, 9s are known as the mediator or the peacemaker. They like to be in control, but in a nice way. So what they are doing is they're aware of other people's challenges and needs, and they like to be able to fix those things so that actually they can have harmony. So outside of themselves, they're looking to correct an imbalance where people are in suffering. They can't abide suffering. So they want to alleviate the suffering of others, which will then alleviate their own suffering. Does that resonate at all?
As somebody that can see, there's many elements of what you were describing, and I'd encourage people as they're listening to Daniel to also kind of be going, oh, does this resonate for me, and does this ring true? So it's interesting because, yes, the many people I've found that do similar work to this type of work, they usually have had some form of suffering or traumas in their life that have then led them to become a kind of a lifelong person helping other people with their trauma, because you learn so much about yourself and how life works that then becomes like the secret sauce to helping others, and you end up coaching.
So I've tuned in, and I'm going to go to page 349 of this Wisdom of the Enneagram, and it talks about how each one suffers to an extent. So this is the negative part of the personality. So I'm going to go with 9. Let's go here. I can only find contentment. Let's go with that word, contentment. I can only find contentment when I am completely at peace and without conflicts or problems, when nothing in the world bothers or upsets me and everyone in my life is happy. Then I can find contentment and I will show up. Does that resonate at all? It might not.
Within
If you were to say
many...
10 was true, 0 not true, give it a number.
3.
Okay, so we're not there. Let's go to 2. I can only find contentment when I am loved unconditionally by others and feel their love. When others totally appreciate my affection and sacrifices and meet all of my emotional needs, then I'll find contentment. Give me a score on that one.
That one's closer to 0.
Oh, it's a 0. She's nowhere there. Okay. So what else did I say? So sometimes I'm way off. All right, let's go to 4. When I have completely resolved all of my emotional issues and found my true significance, when I am completely free to express all of my feelings with everyone whenever I want, then I can find contentment.
9.
That's really showed up. That's interesting.
Yeah, because what I was hearing there was about for me, my inner journey of I'm content with my feelings and my emotions. So it was not about the outside people, but the other examples you read seemed to be about the outside people. And again, encouraging people to kind of go, oh, how much of this is true or not for me, within your own journey of understanding what makes you tick and what makes you work.
So let's just go a little deeper, a tiny little bit deeper, just for the benefit of helping others. So the basic fear of an Enneatype 4 is having no identity and no personal significance. And their basic desire is to find themselves and their significance, to create an identity out of their inner experience. Give me a 0 to 10 on that one.
10.
Okay, so the sensitive withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed and temperamental.
Sometimes all of those, sometimes none of those.
Okay, all right. So really healthy 4s, and I'm gonna, this probably won't show up very well on no, it's not going to show up very well at all. We're going to go out there anyway. There's a table of health on here, so we can learn to become more healthy within our type. So if you are indeed a 4, it says right at the top of the table, which was like the most highly evolved version of an Enneatype 4 would be life embracing and life enhancing. So it says here, 4s let go of the belief that they are more flawed than others and are thus freed from their self-absorption. Their basic desire to find themselves and their significance is also achieved, and thus their problems with their identity and its stability are solved. They are self-renewing, redemptive, and revelatory. A little further down, it says introspective and sensitive. I picked up on your sensitivity. 4s focus on their own feelings and preferences to establish a clear sense of personal identity. So their self-image is one of, I am sensitive, different, and self-aware. A little further down, but still in the healthy range, they are self-revealing and they are creative. 4s reinforce their self-image by expressing their individuality through creative action. They're eloquent and subtle, exploring their feelings and impressions and finding ways of sharing them with others. Their creativity is highly personal, but often has universal implications. There's a spiritual teacher, her name is Gangaji, and she is an Enneagram Type 4. There's also a spiritual teacher, his name's Tony Samara, and he's also an Enneagram Type 4, because I think it's useful to be able to find your type, but then we can always be drawn to really negative versions of the type, and go, oh, well, that celebrity is an Enneagram type 4, look at that behavior. But then equally, it's good to be able to know that there are people who liberated and gone beyond their ego, and here they are in life, and they are literally giving back to life. Also, the Sufi poet Rumi was an Enneagram type 4. Have you ever come across Rumi's poetry before?
Wake up, and don't go back to sleep is one of the things that I quote from Rumi quite often. And Hafiz is, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but Hafiz, who was one of Rumi's teachers, is also one of the people I read a lot of poetry from. But coming back to the show, and what an amazing demonstration. So thank you, Daniel, for doing that quick self-analysis of me live on the show. But what I would say again is that these are ideas to think about. These are things, good and bad, to acknowledge and to look at within yourself and go, yes, that's true. And even if it's painful, to go, yes, that's also true, because it then is that liberating element that helps you to understand in that journey of self-awareness. Well, for me, a big word that came up there was around identity. I understand what is in my past that creates those challenges around creating identity. I also can see in my journey through life, I'm now doing a TV show live across social media, that overcoming those challenges is something that I can celebrate, because I can see that steady progress, those small steps over the many, many years. But Daniel, back to you. And people, I mean, they might be going, oh my God, my brain's exploding after seeing this short example of an Enneagram. How can they get hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me via there. You can put Daniel Hill Coaching into Google, and I'll come up on all different types of platforms. And my website is danielhill.biz. Yes, it's quite easy to find me. And you can set up a Calendly call with me, and you can have a free chat with me for half an hour.
Wonderful. How generous of you. And if you were to give some advice to your younger self, what would that advice be?
I would say be authentic, be yourself. What I've learned within my own business and with my own life is that just allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, like you've been, and I think that's taken a lot of courage. And I'm going to say to everybody, you know, that I think that's what Michele has done there is brilliant. But that vulnerability actually is attractive. It's non-promoting in a promotional way. We are attracted by each other's vulnerability because we're all vulnerable. Vulnerability is powerful. Brené Brown talked about that, the power of vulnerability, and she's a 6 like me. I'm an Enneagram type 6. So the more real you can be, the more authentic, the more lovable we become, and the more that we resonate with people truly, because promotion and defense and fear will block all that. Being real, being ourselves actually is endearing, and it will bring the humanity out of people. And when we're talking about, you know, business or all the rest of it, well, it's about people at the end of the day. And you know, we're selling to people, but we are people ourselves. So be yourself, younger Daniel. It's okay and it's safe.
What beautiful and wonderful, wonderful words. Be yourself, younger Daniel. And I love to say to people at this point, well, even tomorrow, that message to yourself will be to your younger self. So it's a beautiful message to keep reinforcing each and every day, to be yourself and to be vulnerable, and to embrace that vulnerable, beautiful self. So Daniel, thank you so much again for coming on the show today. It's been such an honor.
Thank you, Michele. I've loved it. Thank you. Brilliant.
Wonderful. And to all the people viewing, I know today's show was slightly different, but I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, because again, it's showing that everybody can, no matter what age, stage of life or whatever, you too can keep building and building that successful mindset. But for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.